Hisada's poor performance at his home track may have hurt him in the points, but he's still the only driver to have stood on the podium more than once this season. Meanwhile, Tixier's new, calm, collected form is reaping huge benefits by leading the points in spite of not having a win yet. Will Laguna Seca change that around? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 4 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is IMSA driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Robert O'Brien, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. North American race fans probably need no introduction to this classic circuit. Let's head to our track guide to learn more. Welcome to Laguna Seca. Located just east of Monterey, California, it's hard to deny that this is one of the more scenic American road courses. It travels up and down a hillside which not only offers spectacular views, but one of racing's most iconic corners. Clocking in at 2.25 miles in length, 11 turns split up the current configuration. I say current because up until 1988, the track's layout was shockingly simple with a mere 9 dangerously fast corners. But despite becoming a much more technical track, this difficult nature was retained in its modern form. Turn 6 in particular places an emphasis on precision and daring with its tricky dip at the apex and narrow racing line. But the most well-known spot on the track is of course the corkscrew. Blind and kinked on entry, it then whips the driver through a chicane which drops you nearly 60 feet. It's earned a reputation worldwide for forcing even the most daring competitors to second-guess themselves. But there's honestly a refreshingly wide variety in types of corners, making it a perfect track for driver coaching and training. Elevation changes, differing cambers, and every sort of apex imaginable leaves seasoned veterans and newcomers alike spending hours trying to perfect a lap. With the track becoming popular for hosting IMSA, IndyCar, and MotoGP in its recent history, it also brings out lots of vintage racers due to the Monterey historics each year. Likely to remain a fixture on the American racing scene, this legendary circuit is almost always high on drivers' best of lists. Its history and its uniqueness are sure to delight all for years to come. This is going to be a tricky one. This is already a track that is extremely technical, and pair it with this car, Joey, I think it requires the utmost of our drivers.
It's going to require all of everyone's skill to stay on the track for the entire race. Laguna Seca, one of the most famous West Coast racetracks in North America. 11 turns, just over 2 miles, tons of elevation. Most notably, the dive down into the Andretti hairpin, known as Turn 2. Also, check out Turn 6, which leads to the Rahal Straight. Such a narrow turn. If you go in too early, you can clip the curb. If you carry too much speed, you find yourself out into the gravel. And probably one of the most famous turns in all of motorsports, the corkscrew. Start way up top at the hill, and let me tell you, it is downhill from the corkscrew all the way to start finish here.
Well, as the drivers get ready and set up here, let's take a look at the championship, because as I mentioned, Tixier leads. It's only a single point here over Ove Traingrade, very close between them. As Ben Zocco sits in third, about 10 points back, and Hisada only 11 points back. We've had 3 different winners so far this season, and those top 4 definitely some of the quicker drivers, although Zocco a little bit more on the consistency side than the speed, but sometimes that's paid big dividends, especially at tricky tracks like this one. We have an F2 championship as well. Let's take a look at that.
Check out how close it is, Joe. Bjorn Ackerman and Terry Traumhauser right now currently tied for that F2 driver championship lead. And then trust me, the fight doesn't end there. Kurt Clapper, Mats Linden, Tomas Tuba, and Jonathan Jordan, they're all locked within 3 points, really, for what is a battle for third place. And we got to remember, 3 races done, probably about, what do we got, another 8 or 9 to go. So these things still taking shape.
Indeed, it's early in the season. Cup of Nations, strangely enough, you didn't hear me mention any Finns in those top 4 I was telling you about, and yet they are leading the points. Singapore with mostly 2 drivers of Ho and Tixier contributing there. And then Norway, mainly with Ove Trangrade, getting them up into the hunt. In fact, you can see it is only 5 points between second and fifth place. It's been extremely tight back there, but Finland, as it typically does in a lot of these vintage series, is really raising its head above the rest. Now, for today's race, let's take a look at the race details.
Round 4 of 12, like I mentioned just a little bit ago. Everybody's going to be doing 25 laps today. Open setups. That means you tweak and tune the car how you see fit to best suit your driving style, and no spare car. So if you pick up any of the damage, you're going to have to deal with it out there. Drive-through penalty at 17, disqualification at 25. And Joe, I think one thing to note about these cars is how wide they are, how narrow this racetrack is on the racing line. I wouldn't be surprised if we get tires and wheels tangled up today.
Yeah, and side-by-side racing always so difficult here in general, with it being so twisty. But climbing up the hill, watching on board with Laust Olsen. He is currently sitting in 8th position, so not doing too bad. Ooh, he's a little bit bright today. As I think his camera setup was not adjusted here, but we'll see if that changes as they come down the hill through the corkscrew. Hisada has the provisional pole right now, and we'll see if he's maybe the first one to get 2 wins this season as we come out of the last few corners. There he is on screen right now on his second lap.
And remember, Togo has started off the season very good, but had a mistake recently last time out. See if he overcomes this challenge of Laguna Seca. Coming around the final corner, this is another area that we were talking about pre-races. As the tires wear down, putting the power down in these cars is going to become trickier and trickier as the race goes on.
Tixier goes to the provisional pole, and Hisada improves himself into second place. So not going to be pole today. But the thing that has shocked me, I did not notice, Hugh Haycox is here. Now, he is significant because he is a multi-time champion over in the Camel GT series in the Nissan, which is a complete antithesis of this car. Fendered, high downforce prototype. And yet he is clearly quite good at the lack of downforce Lotus 49 here.
Well, I think that one thing reigns true, Joe, is that if you can drive one car fast, you can tend to pick up another. And Hugh Haycox always at the pointy end of the field, no matter what he's in, it appears.
Still waiting for laps from Kurt Clapper, Tobias Harnvey, Wouter Hermans. Not seeing a lot of the other drivers back at the field out on circuit. We've only got 2 minutes left, so not sure that they're going to have enough time to really get a competitive one in from here. Watching Antti Lepisto, though, here in 4th position. Can he come in and contribute more to the Finns' points? There's no points being awarded for the qualifying, but track position going to be very critical here today as he struggles to get the power down. You talked about that, Joey. It's going to be a very big struggle today doing that.
Well, not only in first gear, but getting the power down in that gear upshift to second. Just going to have to watch that entire straightaway. It's going to open up doors going down into the Andretti hairpin. But before you get to turn 2, Joe, you mentioned even in these cars, turn 1 is definitely a turn here.
Yeah, the car will get light. You can't really take it flat out. It's going to spin out on you. Jorge Nieva up to 5th. So it looks like great qualifying for him. And I think that might be just about it. I do see Kurt Clapper out there, but I don't think he's going to disrupt the top 10. No offense, Kurt. As it looks like Sebastian Tixier will get another pole as Togo Hisada will start from 2nd today. Togo has already taken 2 of the poles, and actually this is the first pole this season for Seb. Hugh Haycox will begin in 3rd as Antti Lepisto starts 4th, and Jorge Nieva, as I mentioned, puts it into P5. Xavier Sanchez starts from 6th, and then he's got Richard Watson in at 7th. Gary Ho on his outside. Gary's actually been getting better and better. He'll start from 8th. John Olsen starts 9th, and Matthias Hovdal, another name that we tend to see in the Camel Series, will begin from 10th.
Robert Plumley here in 11th. Great qualifying from Robert. Got that number 22 number plate there. And then Marco Antonio Salgado in 12th. Matthew Maudsley, 13th. Laust Olsen, who we were riding on board with earlier, in 14th. Jeff Saunders, David Rossi 16th, Glenn Becker, Bjorn Ackerman, Will Lamb, and Steve Morris in 20th.
Jana Lehman starts in 21st, and it's Roberto Pongrazi in 22nd. Cam Porter begins in P23, followed by Michael Grissinger in the 24th spot. Terry Traumhauser will be in 25th. Then you've got Andrew Ang in the 26th spot and Timothy Porter, the brother of Cam, in 27th. Mats Linden starts 28th. Gary Anderson, the last one to set a time, in 29th, and Jason Clapper will be gridded up 30th.
And just a few more cars that didn't put down a qualifying time but should be out there. You see Jonathan Jordan, Tobias Harnvey, Marco Hypen. Let's see here, Wouter Hermans and Christopher Manfredi out there as well.
Pretty good temperatures, thankfully. It's a little past 2 in the afternoon here, and it's 90 degrees Fahrenheit on the track. Whatever grip they can get, they really need it. It's got a little bit of wind at about 12 miles per hour, 19 kilometers, but nothing too drastic, honestly. So I think they should be okay as they start to grid up here. But we have seen dramatic starts, and especially with that crest right away, it sometimes can be hard to see accidents if they unfold early, Joey.
It can be tough. Just have to keep your eyes up and be aware that expect something to happen in turn 2, but it looks like our entire grid is lined up on the front straight, not going around the final corner here. Looks like everyone will have a clean launch.
Well, that's good to see. Some of them uphill there at the front of the grid, but otherwise, it's a pretty normal starting grid for the rest behind. Just waiting for Plumlee, Olsen, Ang, Anderson all to grid up here, along with our pole sitter and Antti Lepisto taking their time. They get 2 minutes to try and grid the cars up, and they can elect to start from pit lane if they choose not to grid. But I got to imagine here you'll want to start as high up as you can, because defending probably going to be easier than attacking at this track. Plumlee works his way out there, and that is everyone. The engines now start to rev as the lights come up here for round 4, and the green flag is out off the line. Looks like a very good start for Tixier as he starts to pull away. It's a poor start for Hugh Haycox, though. Newcomer this car, potentially. Maybe he hasn't figured out the run off the line, and as they plunge down into the hairpin, the Andretti hairpin, looks like he's going to actually come back at Hisada, trying to take that second place away. Everybody else files around the double apexer, and it looks like we're clean down to 3.
Yeah, up front, pretty clean. There are some problems further in the back on the initial start, but you see here, it's Tixier leading Hisada. Hugh Haycox with a very good jump there, also in the 3rd place, starting to run away from everybody else.
See Harnvey and Maurice in pit lane, so they must have had an accident that I had missed somewhere in there. Hugh Haycox continuing to trail behind Hisada. He was not able to complete the pass, so he'll stay in 3rd. Behind him, he's got Jorge Nieva up 1 position into 4th. Lepisto losing out and falling down to 5th.
And here they come through the corkscrew for the first time. Start it from the top to the bottom. Let the whole field run through.
Down through the corkscrew. I'm watching to be careful to see if anybody spins it out into there, but wow, very clean racing, all single file, basically from top to bottom. Also, we're getting information that Steve Morris unfortunately had pedal failure, and that's part of what caused his incident at the start. A little bit of a move in the background, as I think that was John Olsen being overtaken by Matthias Hovdal.
Yeah, Hovdal, really good job going into the last corner, just a late braking move, and actually has the next pass of Gary Ho lined up right in front of him as well. Have to keep an eye on the number 4 car, already up 2 positions. Oh!
Olsen went a little bit wide there. No, Hovdal, went wide, and Olsen just about got him right back. You mentioned Gary Ho there, who has managed to gain 1 off of the start, but looking like he's maybe plugging them up a little bit. There's a train forming.
Yeah, but Hovdal a little fast going in. That's going to open the door for John Olsen behind him. Going into turn 4, Olsen doesn't take a look this time. I think Hovdal's still getting the hang of the rhythm of this racetrack. Just seeing where to be going fast in, slow out, not usually the best strategy.
Indeed, a car that needs to carry that momentum, no doubt. But as we climb up the hill, don't think anybody's close enough to try anything sneaky here. Oh, but there was a big look that we couldn't see behind John Olsen as Richard Watson made an ambitious poke to the inside.
And I think also Will Lamb having problems up at the top of the corkscrew as well. I see him falling down the timing and scoring pylon right now. But honestly, Joe, for the most part, I'm really impressed. I was expecting wheels to get tangled. I was expecting the big one on the first lap.
Yeah, I kind of thought we'd have just a bit of a problem there. This is Will Lamb. Now, this is interesting, something I think a little unique to this car. A lot of cars get lights over that crest, but probably not nearly as much as this thing.
It can be tricky paired with downshifts as well. And let me tell you, if you're right at the limit of the rear lockup, you come over that crest, you will lock those rears. And I guess the best way I can explain it is it's just like pulling the e-brake. You see, all of a sudden, the back end just comes around.
Yeah, just no time to react. Thankfully, everybody was heads up, and though he just drifted onto the track a little bit, everybody was able to avoid him, and Lamb gets going back in 27th position. Back to Hugh Haycox, still in third. He was extremely dominant in recent seasons back in the Camel Series. I think he's trying to bring that here to see if he can be just as impressive, but he's finding that Hisada and Tixier, both champions in this series, are bringing the fight right back to him. I think we just had an issue with Traumhauser and maybe even Gary Ho. Yeah, Gary Ho is going very slow.
I'll have to go back and double check at that. And looks like it was going into the corkscrew. I think Gary Ho made a mistake by himself, Joe. Getting in too deep. Goes four wheels off. And I'm not sure what happened to Terry Traumhauser after that.
Not sure either, but it did a good job keeping it from running into the barriers. Unfortunately, had to give the time back. Let's see what Terry had happen. The Canadian coming up the hill. This is up towards 6. I'm going to take a wild guess that he has an off here. See if it's going early or late. That's early. Whoa, very early.
And you see that orange curb? I call them bread box curbs, and trust me, they are big and they will destroy the suspension on a corner of the car.
Yeah, and that one especially, you mentioned how much it can upset you if you go in too soon. He really clobbered that thing with the car compressing over it, and that sent him off. Very lucky that those right behind him were able to avoid him and not become part of the accident. We've still only lost Tobias Harnvey. Maurice and Grissinger were able to get back out on the track after their early incidents. As we take a look at a nice battle here coming up into the braking zone of the corkscrew. Saunders versus Maudsley in 16th.
Maudsley coming down the hill here in the number 17 car, trying to get that 16th place position away from Jeff Saunders right in front of him. And you notice, still all the way downhill, pretty cool camber here through turn 11, and then another big hard braking zone. Let's see if he gets the power down coming out of turn 12 here.
Really need it up along the front stretch, high-speed portion of the track, and he's looking pretty good, but a big defense coming over the first couple corners here with Jeff Saunders trying to hold him off deep around the outside. Maudsley's going to have to try again later as he gets fed out. And they come back into turn 3 where it switches back. And this is the quote-unquote newer part of the track built at this point more than 30 years ago. But it used to be that it was just a straight shot instead of into that hairpin all the way to here. But they added this, interestingly, to lure Formula One to the track.
You know, I didn't know the reason for it. I would have just expected to slow down the speeds, because when you picture, you come out of turn 1 looking at the Andretti hairpin, imagine just taking a soft right, or I'm sorry, not a soft right, a soft left instead of that hard hairpin left. Bet you're carrying 150 plus miles an hour in these cars. Wouldn't doubt if safety also played into effect.
Yeah, no doubt. This was around 89, 90 that they had done that, and it didn't get Formula One here, but IndyCar showed up and wound up making quite a home as we watch them down through turn 10. Maudsley versus Saunders down into the braking of 11 once again. Last time he wasn't able to do it, but this is much better off the corner. Look at him. He's right on top of that gearbox.
Yeah, he's going to look to the outside here, which isn't the place you want to be going into the Andretti hairpin. See if he goes over, under. No, Saunders is going to stay defensive, but really late on the brakes here. See if he comes back over, under, out of hairpin. Nope, doesn't get the power down that he needs to.
This is what I was talking about. It's looking like it is extremely tough to try and get that pass done today. You have to have either a very good pace advantage or get a little bit tricky.
Well, and just something else I'm noticing in being familiar with Laguna Seca, it's a very low grip racetrack and you have to use every inch of it. And I mean laterally, every inch. Those exit curbs, you got to be all the way out on the dirt. The entry curb on the outside, you have to use it. You have to widen that racetrack because if you don't, you're just leaving speed, apex speed, out on the table.
So far, not enough apex speed for Maudsley. This is, again, for the 16th place. Not seeing much in the way of passing elsewhere as well. As soon as I say that, Sanchez just got by Nieva, so that's going to move him up into 5th spot. That happened between turn 10 and 11. Not a common place.
No, and if I was to guess, turn 10 is heavily banked. Maybe the car got a little bit out of shape there. Open the door. Catch this replay of exactly how this unfolded. You're going to see the number 7 Sanchez coming down the hill out of the corkscrew and all downhill here, Joe.
And Nieva, was that a pass with Lepisto going by? I think there may have been another overtake there. That's Nieva just in front of us. Whoa, a little wide.
Yeah, didn't get out of shape in the corner, but coming out. Definitely lost that exit and can't put the throttle down. And surprisingly, that is an acceleration zone.
So I found out what happened. He just went a little wide in the corkscrew initially, and that's what allowed Lepisto through. So we just had missed that. So that was 2 positions in quick succession for Nieva. Wonder if he had a little bit of dirt on the tires since he did dip them in the corkscrew.
I don't doubt it. And I know in the sim here, oh, big accident here at turn 6. I believe Bjorn Ackerman involved, Jeff Saunders maybe.
And that's former F2 champion David Rossi. I think his is what started it. And yeah, he's going to get clipped by Ackerman. Did he downshift too much? We heard him blow the engine just there.
It could have been an aggressive downshift, which then turns his car sideways, and you called it. Just the cars piling in afterwards. Let's take a listen here, see what happens to David Rossi.
Yeah, there it goes. You saw the puff of smoke. Now watch Saunders here in this purple car. He's going to be on the left-hand side. There he is. He goes completely off course to avoid the melee. And actually, even though it loses him a position, I'd say that was probably the smart move.
It was the smart move. That's great. You don't always have to stay on the racetrack to avoid. I think too many people get caught up in that, and it's better to live another day because look what happens in front of you.
Just abandoned ship, and that gave him the space, and he lives to fight another day. That'll give him 16th. He at least gained 2 spots from that, even though he may have lost one from a car going by ahead of him. Haven't seen any changes up at the front. Tixier still leads Hisada and Haycox for your podium, and they've been split by about half a second for much of the race up till now. But we continue to look here at the mid-pack, climbing up the hill towards the corkscrew, where the fighting has been fierce. This is Glenn Becker that we've got on screen right now in 15th position. He got one of those spots off of Jeff Saunders with his little bail off track. And Becker is actually up 2 from where he started. But Jason Clapper, no surprise here, is up from the back of the field, has gained 12 positions.
Cool shot here. I believe this is Glenn Becker coming out onto the front straightaway using a virtual reality rig. That looks pretty familiar. That's the setup that I use myself. I really like it because it provides you a lot of immersion. Now, I don't see many of like the pro racers using the virtual reality, but if you want to get in and practice and feel like you're putting an actual helmet on your head, VR is the way to go.
Well, and to be able to actually look to the apexes like you would in real life as well, something that it gives you the advantage of, I imagine. But for now, it's at least got him into 15th. And he's just kind of running a bit of a lonely race, it looks like, a little far back from Maudsley, just in front of him.
Well, and you actually see him looking into those apexes. And at Laguna Seca, they're pretty wide, but I think that more pays off in like the dirt racing or maybe even short track stuff where you really got to turn your head.
Yeah, that's very true. And you're constantly side by side with other cars. You need awareness all around you. And Becker takes it down the corkscrew. Meanwhile, we're going to jump a little bit farther forward. This is Hisada still chasing on Tixier. Wants to get that points lead back and get his third podium of the season. Tixier trying to get his first win of the season here. Managed to put it on pole. He actually mentioned he spun on his first lap, and the second one was the money lap for him. But he thinks that he mentioned in the chat that maybe he heated up his tires and that gave him just a little bit of an advantage by accident. Interesting strategy. Maybe he'll have to try that next qualifying and see if that's a good data point to reference or not out there. But talking about this battle up front, I'm actually really impressed with Togo. He fell back a little bit in the first handful of laps. I actually thought Hugh Haycox was much faster than him on the racetrack, but ever since, it seems like he's gotten into a rhythm, settled in, and caught our leader, Sebastian Tixier. That was Mats Linden that we saw having an issue getting lapped and tried to duck out of the way. That checked up Tixier. Hisada's getting a lot closer now, and Hisada does not like to sit around. He wants to take the position. He's going to go around the outside. Does Tixier have some sort of slowdown here? No, he does not, but the car seems a little bit off pace. He's going to lose the lead, and now Hugh Haycox is behind him. That's kind of what it looked like to me, and here comes Hugh Haycox. He's taking a look right side. Is he going to... Oh, here comes Tixier. Really late on the brakes underneath. Hisada takes it back. But he finds the apex somehow. Side by side now for second place as they come off of the Andretti hairpin. Haycox around the outside of turn 3. Can't quite get it done. He goes for the over-under. He needs a little bit of a better exit. They're going to have to get single file now through turn 4. And they speed through up to 5, where it's going to be uphill and into 6. You definitely don't want to try side by side there, but maybe 5 for Haycox? No. I tell you what, Hugh Haycox is up on it right now. He has gotten up into the battle. The two leaders fighting it out has drawn him into it, and he wants a shot at the checkered flag. Checking to see if there's maybe just a little bit of a cut through the corner. Yeah, I think Tixier was a little bit tight through the corkscrew, and that's what gave him the slowdown penalty last time with Mats Linden kind of distracting him off to the side. But he's recovered from it, and strangely enough, we go exactly back to how we were before. Amazing driving from Tixier, and I can't remember if it was last week or maybe a couple weeks ago, but I was making the comment on how aggressive Sebastian is on the brakes, and we saw when he needed to use it, he pulled it out of his pocket. I can't believe he made the apex there. I thought he was just going to go sailing by and Togo would cut back underneath him, but no, he made it stick. And Haycox tried his best to try and get into the thick of it, but nothing doing. Interestingly, I don't know if it's because of Lepisto getting passed early and he's not been able to play catch-up. He's 7 seconds behind. Usually he should be pretty close to their pace. Yeah. And somebody off there. Sorry, I just noticed. There's been a few. Andrew Ang went off here at the corkscrew. Also, our biggest mover, Jason Clapper, had some issues coming out of the corkscrew, and here we've got Matthias Hovdahl in this battle for 7th place, chasing down Jorge Nieva in front of him. Actually, it looks like Clapper... and Jason Clapper, more problems, yeah. Yeah, he ran into Steve Morris and Cam Porter having an accident. We might want to replay on this one. Down into turn 12, and just kind of was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Watch the two in front of them. They're going to get tangled. And unfortunately, as they block the track, the 16 just kind of has no place to go. And this was after Jason had his mistake at the corkscrew. So this has just been a lap that Jason Clapper wants to forget. Well, and if he hadn't had that issue, then he wouldn't have been behind them. So there's always those what ifs in racing. Wasn't it Murray Walker that said if is F1 backwards? And yeah, here you go. You know, I've never heard that, but that is classic. And the other one is if you didn't have any luck out there, or if you didn't have bad luck, you would have no luck at all. Yeah, well, sad to see that has put Steve Morris out with that incident. So he's gone, and does look like Jason's having to take extensive repairs. We're now halfway into the race. Let's take a look at this battle that we've seen a little bit earlier on. Jorge Nieva versus John Olsen versus Richard Watson for 7th. Pretty good, and check this out.
John Olsen actually has a really good run going into turn 5. Doesn't take a look on Nieva, but gets right up on the back. And this is going into turn 6 up the hill. We've seen 6 bite a few competitors out. It's always about the run coming out, going up into the corkscrew.
And out of 6, it was decent for Watson, not so for Olsen, but not a long enough Rahal straight as they come over the crest now and through the corkscrew. Down the hill they fly, catching up a little bit to Matthias Hovdal, it seems. These 3 might become a quartet soon.
Just might, and you see him get squirrely, just squirm around on the brakes coming down the hill here. Still slightly downhill into another heavy braking zone. Let's see who gets the throttle down the best coming out onto the front straightaway. Honestly, really good and even run from all 3 of them.
I don't see any advantage here coming up to the Andretti hairpin, braking hard into this corner. They're all going to stay line astern, although a little too hard there for Jorge Nieva, who goes way wide at the apex. He manages to keep the spot for now, but they continue to cut down on Hovdal. It does look like Nieva's 12th lap, not this last one, but the one prior, was a little slow by about 2 seconds there. So I think he maybe had some kind of issue that has set him back, and now he's just trying to play catch-up on the 4.
And I'm looking at timing and scoring, looking at all of these lap times. I'm really impressed with our top 3, obviously. But you look at the rest, and the fall-off has actually been pretty dramatic. They're already doing 124s out on the racetrack. Compare that to their fast lap of low 123s.
Somebody was off course in turn 6 yet again. That has been a real trouble zone, and there we get a car cutting across the corkscrew. Must have been a lapped car, because I don't see anybody losing positions now, and thankfully they were out of the way, but that did scare Nieva as he's got Olsen all over the back of him, but Olsen trying to move into 10 does not pay dividends.
It's caught me out a few times too, Joe. I think some of these back markers are they're pulling off in some odd spots that they look like they're spun cars, don't they?
That was Hapen up there in the 31 that, just kind of dived out of the way, it looks like, trying to stay out of it. It's not a very long lap around here. We don't have the largest amount of vehicles as Saunders has also gone off track in what looks like turn 10 with a little bit of damage on the front of the car. Let's see what caused this.
Looks like bouncy bounce up over curb, Joe, and that wasn't just a suspension hit, that was a chassis hit on that curb.
Yeah, it's very similar to what we saw over the apex of 6. I was trying to remember which driver it was before that we saw. Actually, was it Jeff Saunders doing the same thing before?
My memory is not good enough for that one.
No, I can't remember either, and I didn't get a note down. But boy, he just bounded over. It was. I know we saw Rossi blow his engine, but we had a driver that turned in too early and completely bounded over. I'm trying to recall. But regardless, seems to be a bit of a theme. Don't flirt with the curbs a little too hard. Oh, Sanchez just had a problem. Sanchez is now going slow, and he's losing positions. That's going to allow Hovdal and Tobias Harnvey to go by. Harnvey's a lapped car. He's just trying to stay out of the way. But Hovdal says, thank you very much. I'll take a top 5.
I wonder if this is another downshift gone wrong, Joe, or if this is maybe a slowdown that Sanchez was serving. I think maybe a slowdown.
I'm checking. He didn't seem to go too tight through the corkscrew, so I'm not seeing it. And it does have the feeling of a slowdown penalty, because he pulls off, and there doesn't seem to be really any major issues from what I can see on my replay. But whatever the case, not only has he lost out to Hovdal, now here, look at this. Nieva, Olsen, Watson have caught up.
Yeah, but this is a battle for the lead right now. Check this one out, Joe. Toga Hisada starting to hound the back of Sebastian Tixier, and I think if there's going to be some number 6 speed to show up right now, it's best at the end of the race.
Well, and especially when Haycox won't be able to try and get through, because if he makes a mistake, that's going to open the door for Hugh to try and zip by both of them. He's poking his nose here and there, and he definitely looks threatening. Tixier is trying to stay cool and collected. He knows that his first win of the season is at hand here. Can he hold back Togo Hisada?
And remember how good Sebastian was on the brakes. I think that he can really pull that out when he needs to. So I feel like Toga Hisada really needs to be alongside Tixier if he's got a shot at him.
So we have a Frenchman leading who now hails from Singapore. We have a Japanese driver, and we have a Brit who is studying in France, all racing one another. As now we've got another car off track, John Olsen. Oh, he was having such a good race, and he's got someone with him. Did they have a little bit of a tangle here?
Yes, it looks like John Olsen just got in way too deep into the Andretti hairpin, locks it up, and takes out Jorge Nieva.
You never want to touch wheels. You talked about it. Open wheel cars, especially these old things, they can't handle making that kind of contact, and he just outbrakes himself a little too much.
Oh, did he have contact in turn one?
It kind of looked like it. Wonder if we could get an off-board shot to see if whoever was behind him gave him a little clip.
Was this a cone, Joe? So I know that the net cone from cones recently has been on the rise.
I have, that is some sort of either hardware failure or very strange net code. I've never seen something like that. Yeah, I think it might be hardware failure, actually. Our producer suggested that, and that looks like it, because suddenly it just kind of didn't steer anywhere after he was trying to get the car to blow up.
Yeah, just a very interesting something happened on the racetrack, but let's jump back up to our lead battle. Still these top three sorting it out, and actually check this out, a little bit of damage on the front end of Toga Hisada's car.
Yeah, I have been noticing that he steers aggressively down to those apex curbs. I wonder if he's been a little bit too ambitious once or twice with them and managed to get away with it. Because that can happen with this car. That nose, look at how much it dips under braking. That's one thing that is kind of unique to this vehicle. The suspension travel means that it pitches and rolls a whole lot.
It really does. It's totally different than how cars are kind of set up now, but I think that's one of the interesting parts about this car. You gotta have to learn how to drive it, couple it with, Joe, your favorite comment of me, the tires, the old school tires on here, something totally different.
It's there's your Joey Atterbury bingo. Check off that one. As, they come over the crest of one, and now Tixier is responding. Hisada can't seem to keep up, but they did have a little bit of the lap traffic there, going by Trabahauser in the 25, so that may have cost him a little bit of time. Laps are ticking down, though, and we've seen it's only a minute 20-something to circulate around here, so he might run out of time. What about for Laust Olsen? He has a front row view of Watson and Plumley. Will they fight each other enough that he can maybe try and join the fun?
He's hoping so. I think Laust looks a little unamused right now. He's just kind of had a lonely race back there in 9th place. However, up 5 positions from his starting spot of 14th, so he's moving forward for sure.
Absolutely. And Olsen, not the best of qualifying from him that we've seen in this series, but definitely not letting that hold him back here today. Ooh, he's a little wide here into 5, though. Oh. He gathers it back up, but that was not what he wanted.
Sorry to interrupt. Hugh Haycox just got into the back of Togo Hisada. There was a lapped car that kind of separated this battle a little bit, and thankfully nobody spun out, but you see the damage on the front of the number 3 car now.
Yeah, we won an onboard of this one. I was able to go back and give this a quick look. Oof, yeah, here we go. That we saw just a flash of it, but this will happen as they come through Rainy Curve. Did a very good job keeping this from turning both of them around, because watch how sideways he's going to get here.
This is a lapped car that got to navigate around, and all of a sudden, Togo's in your lap.
Oh, man, full opposite lock. And still kept it on the track. That is brilliant stuff.
I think the only thing that saved Hugh right there is the track. You're going downhill, but you also have camber. So he counted on that camber of the track to grip up the car and kept it on the pavement.
Meanwhile, side by side between Plumley and Watson. Plumley's got the inside, and he feeds through. That's going to put him into 7th place. Nice textbook pass there from the 22.
You called it. Textbook. Plumley up another spot, up 4 right now for Robert Plumley.
That did help Laust Olsen quite a bit. He's gathered some more time on them. I see Jeff Saunders in pit lane for some reason. Not sure what caused that, but we'll investigate that a little later as they come up through turn 6 once again. Richard Watson was up a little bit higher than this. He's fallen down to 8th now, so lost a spot with that pass since the start of the race. But remember, he was up with the very front group earlier on and has not seemed to be able to keep the pace up as this race progresses. Much tighter down to the apex on the exit of Rainy Curve, but it's not going to do him enough good. Here comes Laust Olsen behind him now.
Well, you mentioned it just a couple laps ago. Laust trying to get into this battle, and here he is finally able to race a few cars, although Richard Watson right now has a pretty good run. Taking a look down the inside of Plumley, doesn't make a move this time. Laust is able to close up just a little bit more.
Ooh, he's way wide at the first apex, and look at the slide there coming off of Richard Watson as he tries to get the throttle down out of the hairpin. Manages to hold on to it. In fact, very good exit out of turn 3. Through 4 is ambitious, wheel to wheel, and he scares him off the racing line. Plumley gives it up.
And here it's going to open the door for Laust. Does he take a look down into 5? He does not get late on the brakes. Plumley's going to hang on, get back into the tracks of Richard Watson, do a little bit of a reset, find a new way around him again.
Wow, it's rare that you see a pass into turn 4, and despite being barely alongside him, he made that stick. So Richard Watson not taking no for an answer. Say now head for the braking up into the corkscrew. You can see some of the dirt and gunk that's been kicked onto the track as multiple cars have had issues through there. Plumley opens the door briefly on Olsen, but he can't manage to get his foot through.
And if you guys wonder, is that dirt at the corkscrew real? I think yes and no. You know, I've driven here tons of times, and I know in IMSA they actually put a tire bundle out at the top of the corkscrew because we drivers have a tendency to take advantage of those track limits, and it just spits dirt everywhere if they don't put those tires out there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think in the real world it cleans it up a little bit more on the racing line pretty quickly, but here definitely you got to watch out for a little bit of low grip off there. Cars still squirming as they try to put the throttle down around some of these slower turns on this track. The laps are running out. We still have only 4 left to go.
4 laps left, and looks like a little bit of a battle right here. This is actually who I'm checking out. John Olsen hunting the back of Matthew Maudsley, and something to notice on the front of this car, Joe, he's missing some body work.
Yeah, remember he had that contact earlier on. Thankfully not a very aero-dependent track, not like we have with places like Monza or Le Mans, where you need that top-end speed. So shouldn't slow him down too badly. But we got to also hope that he doesn't have any sort of suspension damage. As speaking of speed, Togo Hisada takes the fastest lap.
Joe, you took the words right out of my mouth. Somehow, Togo has closed it back up onto our leader. And not just a fast lap, but a fast lap by over half a second.
Interesting. Wow, that's quite a bit of pace pickup there. Not sure how he managed to suddenly do that out of nowhere. These cars aren't as much like we see with the Lotus 79, the later version of this machine, where they get super, super fast at the end of the stint. But they do definitely come to their own, but usually the tires start to get pretty hot by the end, including losing grip through turn 6, where Hisada flirts with disaster.
He's just got to be careful through these next few turns here. We've seen drivers overstep the limit when the tires are dirty. A little bit of slide coming out of the corkscrew, but looks like Hisada did gather it back up.
Yeah, and he didn't lose too much time. Interesting to note that Hugh Haycox is way off of them now, about 3.6 seconds, so no longer an issue. And we'll come to the line now to take it down to 2 laps to go. Time is running out. Hisada seems like he's still got something in him, but it's been a bit of mistake-prone incidents here. As it's going to be lap traffic for Sebastian Tixier. Will this offer the opportunity? Timothy Porter gets out of the way, checks him up just a little bit. Marco Hiepen, who's already been lapped once, sees them coming. Will he be able to find space to let them through?
I think we're going to have to deal with this all the way to the end of the race, and lapped cars are playing nicely. Ooh, a little bit in the way for Togo Hisada, but I don't think it costs him any time. You see Togo really overdriving the car now. I think he realized that if he's got a shot, he's got to attack now and close the gap.
For Togo, it is time to go, but can he pick it up enough? They've got Michael Grissinger up next. As interesting to note, Michael had reminded me after we had our 10th anniversary race. He's been around a long time here on the channel, but I forgot how long. He used to be one of the race marshals for one of the very first series we ever covered, the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series. So, guy's been around for a literal decade here on the channel and still racing.
You love to see it, sticking in sim racing, and also just the growth of it. 10 years ago compared to now, the face has completely changed.
Absolutely, and a lot of different faces out on the track as well, but glad that Michael's still with us. Final lap as the white flag is out. Not sure that they'll catch Michael. It's going to be close on if they do get to him in time. As you can see, you can't quite see him up, except for there he is right there in the distance.
Oh, and Togo just had a big mistake in turn 3. Got the pushy, loose characteristic that is so common here at Laguna, and you see Tixier just kind of skip off a few more car lengths.
Yeah, for how smooth he usually is, it seems that Togo was sawing at the wheel a whole lot there. Puts him 7/10 back. He needs a mistake out of Seb at this point, because I don't think the win is in the bag unless he manages to get an error from that number 2.
No, and remember how good Tixier is on the brakes. I feel like he could kind of cruise through these couple corners, come home to that checkered flag.
Going to give us 4 different winners if he just makes it through these last 2 turns and holds Hisada off from here. It does look like he's taking it nice and easy, just easing the car back on the last couple corners. Sebastian Tixier, as I mentioned, has been very cool and relaxed since he took that championship. And boy, has it helped him, because he leads the points and extends that with a win here in California.
Togo Hisada will come home in the 2nd place, and Hugh Haycox rounds out your podium in 3rd.
Pisto has to settle for 4th today. Xavier Sanchez back into the top 5 over Matthias Hovdahl. Still a very good showing from our drivers hopping over from the Camel Series. A 3rd and a 6th position here up towards the front as Richard Watson cruises across the finish in 7th. Not seeing many battles, and in fact, we're down to only 17 drivers left on the lead lap here.
Yeah, I'm noticing that too. We didn't have the big one, but the curbs and off tracks definitely caught some cars out. Here's Cam Porter in 17th, up 6 positions on the racetrack for Cam, actually.
Yeah, Cam didn't have a clean one. Remember, he got caught up in a couple incidents, but he is able to bring it home to at least finish on the lead lap in the end. So that ugly A word came back once again. Attrition took a lot of cars out. We'll go over that in a minute. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. So stick around. to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca as we take a look at how it started, but how it finished was Sebastian Tixier taking his first one of the season, making 4 different winners in 4 races. Togo Hisata followed him home, his 3rd podium of the season, but Sebastian's still going to be ahead of him in the points after that. It's looking like those two are going to be major players. What about Hugh Haycox, though? He will have drop points to help him later on in the season, but he's going to be climbing out of a hole, and he certainly looks quick here, taking a 3rd in his first time of trying, as Antti Lepisto finished P4, and Xavier Sanchez was 5th. Then it was Matthias Havdahl in the 6th position, followed by Richard Watson, P7. Laust Olsen, 8th today, up from P14, followed by Robert Plumley in 9th, and Gary Ho finished in 10th.
Here in 11th, we have Marco Antonio Salgado. Matthew Maudsley, who had a few battles today, comes home 12th. John Olsen, 13th. Glenn Becker, 14th. Yanni Lehman there in 15th. Will Lamb, Cam Porter up 6 positions. And then I think this is our biggest mover, Jonathan Jordan up 14, as well as Kirk Clapper up 12. Wouter Hermans there in 20th.
Yeah, all getting into the cars that are already lapped. Traumahauser 21st with Ang in 22nd. 2 laps down for Hapen in at 23rd. Michael Grissinger, who we mentioned, finished P24. Then it was Gary Anderson in 25th. Tobias Harnvey in 26th. And Steve Morris managed to get the car back out on track again after 2 incidents. Was 6 laps down, but he finished 27th. Was kind of critical for him out there today. Most of the rest that you see here are drivers who were DNF'd. Nieva did manage to get to the finish, but only Bjorn Ackerman able to get the car back out on track amongst the rest of these. So let's talk to our race winner, Sebastian Tixier, see how it was from his perspective. We saw at least once where you seemed to get some sort of slowdown penalty, and you were under great threat from both Togo and Hugh. But other than that, did you feel like you had it under control?
Not really. Well, from the qualification, I thought I would have the pace to go away, but I think it's just that I was lucky in the qualification. I did a drift, almost span in the left-hander after the corkscrew, and I thought I was going to have a black flag, but instead of that, I got better rear tires for the second lap, so I was a bit lucky about that. And yeah, it was tough with the back markers. Every time I was passing one, I was losing my pace, my concentration, and no, it was really tough with Togo just behind me.
Yeah, it looked like they were keeping the pressure up. Have you raced against Hugh Haycox before? We've seen him over in the Camel Series, but as far as I was aware, this is the first time I've seen him in the 49.
Yeah, I think it's the first time. You know what? If those guys come on our turf, on the turf, Lotus 49 turf, I will do the Camel after. Try to...
I would love. Yeah, I want to see this. This is going to be really cool to see the cross-pollination there and see how you do, since he got a podium here on this one. Let me double check. We're going. It's good news and bad news. Bad news is it's the Nürburgring. Good news is it's the Grand Prix course, so you don't have to worry that much. But you think you're going to try and hop in the car here after we finish the interview?
Yeah, actually, I already practiced a little bit. I did a special pen job for the GTO, and yeah, I will try.
Well, look forward to seeing you there. Congratulations on the first one of the season.
Thank you.
That was Sebastian Tixier, your winner here at Laguna Seca. And behind him, it was Togo Hisata. Joey has caught up with him, who has taken now 3 podiums this season.
Yeah, 3 podiums today, a 2nd place finish. Congrats, Togo.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, and we saw you be able to sneak away the lead a little bit from Sebastian Tixier, albeit a slowdown. What did you need to stay in front of him today?
It's nearly impossible today, I think. Yeah, he's really fast in qualifying, and it might be the differential setup. I think he's run with the clutch plates, one clutch plates, but anyway, that suits today's condition. Is today's track usage is maximum and really sleepy. So yeah, his setup really suited and better traction in the corner exit. So yeah, really hard to follow self and yeah, that lap, yeah, I took the first position a little bit, but yeah, I didn't expect it, but that next turn braking, he's dabbing to me, and yeah, I didn't believe he's stopping in the right position, you know. Yeah, he's today's braking he's so deep, and he's so brave, and yeah, he's really fast, so yeah, really hard to get a win today.
Well, and that actually leads me to my next question, Togo. It seems like Sebastian is so good on the brakes. Were you expecting him to come from that far back? And maybe do you think that's an area you can explore with your setup, is to maybe maximize the braking like Tixier is?
Yeah, really difficult to brake. Yeah, you know, it's the power one, you just pressed before the braking point, so really, it just actually jumped the car before the braking, so really difficult to prepare the braking. So yeah, I think today setup difference is really big, you know, big effect in me and the self.
Well, and lastly, Togo, before I let you go, you've been really consistent running. I expect you to stay consistent throughout the season. Anybody you want to say hi to or thank?
Yeah, my family, my father watching the broadcast every week, and you know, this global sim racing channel. Yeah, it's really great broadcast every week. So thank you, and the Lotus 49 community.
Awesome. Well, that was Togo Hisada coming away with another podium here at Laguna Seca.
Impressive stuff. I'm sure he's going to get that second win this season at some point. Meanwhile, behind him, it was Hugh Haycox. And Hugh, it was described by Sebastian as you coming onto these guys' turf. So almost sounds like a rival gang war going on. How did you feel out there today?
Yeah, it was quite fun, really. I had nothing to do this afternoon and thought, why not? Yeah, those guys are super quick. I mean, I was struggling to keep up, and as soon as I made a mistake, then it was game over. But yeah, it was great racing and really fun car.
Now, you have taken so much and success in the Nissan, but you switched over to the GTO, which I've always considered to be kind of similar to the Lotus 49 in terms of there's not many other cars on iRacing that are similar to this car. How do you feel about making that transition between these two? Was it pretty easy?
See, I think the Lotus is a combination of it's like if the Nissan and the Audi had a baby. It's gearing's quite similar to the Nissan, but the lack of traction is quite similar to, or the understeer is quite similar to the Audi, and then the snap oversteer is quite similar to the Nissan. So it's quite, you know, it's a fun car to drive. It's definitely a lot harder than both of them, but yeah, it's you know, adjusting to a new car, and especially the brakes. The brakes are really hard.
Well, it sounded like it was a little bit of a lark. Now that you've tried it, do you plan to stick around?
I don't know. It was more of a one-off, but we'll see. Depends on the tracks if I enjoy them or not. But yeah, it should be fun.
Well, we look forward to seeing you more if you do show up. Congratulations on a podium on the first time of trying.
Thanks.
Hugh Haycox with an excellent third place. One last quick one. Joey's caught up with Cam Porter, who managed to be on the lead lap by the end.
Yeah, Cam on the lead lap, also up 6 positions, finishing 17th. You got to feel good after that one.
Yeah, coming into this race and looking at the field, I was going to be happy just to finish inside the top half, and you know, considering my car number, and yeah, so I guess I accomplished that. I miraculously survived getting punted by a lapped car. That was kind of infuriating. So I'm just happy to have come home in one piece, I think.
Well, I think going into any sim race, you got to prepare for the worst out there, and sometimes it happens. But I'm happy to see that you got back up on it and were able to finish it out. And I gotta say, I love the GSRC shirt. It's always so nice to see it on out there for all the broadcasts. And looking forward to Jerez next week. A little bit of a different style racetrack. How do you feel going into that place?
That'll be a tricky track for sure. We did it in the Camel series just a few weeks ago, and yeah, it was challenging for sure. But looking forward to the new track. I always, I never met a road course I didn't like, so bring on Jerez.
Awesome, Cam. And before I let you go, anybody you want to say hi to?
I need to apologize for Will Lamb for my horrific rejoin in front of him after I got punted. So sorry, Will. Looking forward to more racing with you soon.
Well, the apology to Will Lamb is loud and clear. Cam Porter coming home in, I'm sorry, I already forgot here. He's back
17th.
here in 17th place position.
And that's going to wrap us up as we give a thank you to the Lotus 49 community in general for bringing us back for another season of coverage. And also thanks to the team today, Rob, Joey, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media website and merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. If Haycox comes back, he'll be back at Jerez, which I would love to see him try that there since he did race in Camel with it. That'll be April 15th next week at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts, including Up Next Camel at the Nürburgring at 1 p.m. Eastern. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.